Yes, everybody, hope we are all good. Welcome back to another YouTube video. So, just as I'm watching this trade play out, sorry, I've got a burp. Excuse me. I'm currently in this trade and I'm just watching it play out. I think I'm going to come and get break even here, to be honest, but we'll watch it together. And while I'm watching it, I wanted to touch on a bit of some psychological, because the past few videos I've done have been very like actual trading based. So I wanted to talk about like some psychology sides today. And as you can tell by the title, and the title of today's video is the 10-second rule that fixes 90% of your trading mistakes. And what I mean by that is like your biggest trading losses weren't caused by your biggest losses in trading didn't come from a bad setup, right? It didn't come from trades that you shouldn't have taken. Well, no, kind of getting that mixed up. It didn't come from like a bad setup. They the biggest losses in your trading career, they happened in the 10 seconds before you clicked the button. And today I'm going to be pretty much like breaking down a simple 10-second rule that can eliminate like impulsive trades, like FOMO trades, revenge trading, and like holding like overnight, etc. Like, I'm gonna wipe out all those like thoughts and trades and like ideas of getting into those trades with one 10-second rule. So most traders think that they lose because of the charts, right? Because of like, oh, this didn't go my way because of this. It was all the chart's fault. The candles that you're seeing on the screen, it was their fault. The reason you lost. That is wrong, right? 99% of traders lose because of emotions, right? They don't lose because they was like wrong on the charts. They lose because of their emotions. And the fact is that the moment you feel like the moment you're getting into these trades and those emotions start to kick in, the moment you feel you enter your trade, and the moment you start to feel your heart rate beating and your heart rate going up, your brain shifts from like a logical, rational thinking mind to like a survival mode of irrational thinking. And when you're in that irrational mind, you cannot think clearly. You cannot, take like logical and rational ideas from being in a trade. Your mind screams, we haven't tapped into the fair value gap yet, but your mind sat there and it's screaming, just get in quick, or it's going to run off without you. Or you take a loss and it's sat there saying, we need to win this money back, we need to get this. And these like impulses that I've just talked about, these happen like fast, right? This little switch in your mind can happen within half a second, right? We're about to get break even, and yeah, so these little things that can that you make a reaction off of, like getting into the trade early, or saying to yourself, I need to win this money back. These can happen within literally a millisecond, right? That decision is made in your brain, and that impulse of like going from your brain to your hand to click buy can happen within as quick like a snap of the fingers, right? So, and because it happens so quick, unless you interrupt that loop, you will keep repeating the bad decisions, right? You will keep repeating the decision of, I'm going to start to take. You'll keep repeating getting into the trade without actually tapping into your fair value gap, or something's missing from your trading, your entry model, but you take it anyway. These are the things that it will, if you don't like put a plaster on it now, it will keep on bleeding, and the bleed will get bigger and bigger and bigger. So here's a rule that kind of changed my trading forever, right? Before entering any trade, right, stop for 10 seconds, right? On my video I did yesterday when I was live trading, No, live back testing, sorry. And there were times before I was trading, where before I executed, that like you probably saw me go a little bit quiet and I didn't really say much. And that's because I was doing this, right? Before any trade, I stop for 10 seconds, right? And it's not to think about the profits, it's not to imagine a win, it's to run a simple, strategic, like, diagnosis kind of thing, right? So it's like, I have 10 seconds to think, right, clearly, with putting my, like, with my rational brain, with my rational mind, right, with my non-emotional mind. In those 10 seconds, I answer 4 quick questions. 4 quick questions when I'm inside of, I've just got broke even, that's what it is. Answer 4 questions. Question number 1. Is this trade part of my trading plan? Is this trade part of, like, would I take this? Is this my bread and butter, right? If the setup isn't like my playbook, the answer is I don't trade, right? The answer is I don't trade. Like, when you are trading against your model, that is like a very high percentage of like most of your losses when you are trading against your bread and butter, right? You are going against the plan. The second question I ask myself is, what emotion am I feeling right now? And I say it out loud. I sit there and I say it out loud. If I'm feeling some sort of emotion, I will say it outside so my brain and my mind can take accountability. So if I sit there and I say, let's say I'm looking at this a trade after taking a loss, there might be a bit of revenge in there, and I'll say to myself, am I feeling any emotion right now? And if I sit there and I can look at myself and say, yes, you are, I don't trade, right? I don't trade. I walk away. But if I sit there and say, what emotion am I feeling right now? And there's no emotion, it's completely fine. I will continue to trade. Or I could sit there and, a lot of people maybe watching this would sit there and say they get quite bored and they fancy taking a trade. If you get bored and you take that trade, if you get bored while you're about to take this trade and you ask yourself this question, you don't take the trade. You don't take it. My third question, if this trade loses, will I still be proud I took it? And this is a big one for me, right? It's even not even like if I'm proud I took it, like if I lose this trade, will I be mad at myself, right? Because what you get from that is if you're taking a trade and after you're like, for fuck's sake, why did I take that? That tells you all you need to know about the trade in question. Like, should you have really took it if you are going to be mad at yourself that you took that trade? In my opinion, no. Because if it was a bread and butter setup, you wouldn't be mad. Yeah, if this was with your plan, you wouldn't be mad. So for you to sit there and say to yourself, oh, why did I take that? That clearly says that trade wasn't a valid trade. It wasn't a valid setup. So if you can sit there and look at the trade and say, will I be mad if I take this trade? And you can sit there and say, no. There you go. Take the trade. Because it's clearly within your rules. But if it's against your rules and you sit there and say, I will be mad at myself, you don't take the trade. My fourth and final question I ask myself is like, is my risk like defined? Like, is my risk okay? And what that means is like, am I over leveraging? Am I like risking? Am I entering a trade where my target's like some 15-minute lows, and they're like, oh, alarm's going off on my phone, sorry. They're like, I don't know, 100 pips away, but my stop loss like 175 pips away. Have I got a negative risk to reward? Am I going to be risking more than I'm going to be making? Am I over leveraging on like how I normally? Am I risking more than like my max risk, which is like 1%, 9 times out of 10? Like, And if so, again, I will not take the trade. If my risk is defined and it's positive, I've got a positive risk to reward, it's no problem, right? They're the 4 questions I ask myself. They're the 10 seconds, right, which take 10 seconds before I take my trade with a rational mind, because as soon as you get into that trade, you can start to develop an irrational mind. So while you have that rational mind, ask yourself those questions, and I promise you'll start to see a difference. These 4 questions take less than 10 seconds. Less than 10 seconds. But these 10 seconds can completely rewire your decision making process and make you think rationally. When if you're wondering how or why does this work and how do you know it works? Well, because I've done it. And when you take a step back, and when you pause and you look at it, and you know when a horse is about to run, some horses have blinkers on, don't they, where they can't see what's to the left and the right, and they can just focus on in front. When you're about to get into a trade, you have these blinkers on, these human blinkers. They're not actually there, obviously, but it's just how that it's built in your mind, right? And when you about to take a trade, you have these blinkers on. But when you pause and you take a step back and look at ask yourself those questions, your brain shifts out of that emotional caveman mind and into a logical prefrontal cortex, the part responsible. That's the part in your brain which is responsible for your strategy, your patience and your discipline. That's the rational part of it, right? So your mind, instead of having these blinkers on and being zoned in, your mind and your vision widens, and you start to see the trade a lot more clearly. That 10-second pause is basically it's like a mental brake pedal that you've just hit, you've slammed on, right? And it gives your brain, those 10 seconds gives your brain just enough time to think about what you're about to do and what the reason you're getting into the the trade. So let me kind of show you or tell you how this works in real trading, right? So let's say you're looking for longs, right? But we've not tapped in to the fair value gap yet. So let's say we have come down, sweep this low, blah, 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 blah. Right? So let's say we have this 5-minute fair value gap here, but we haven't tapped into it yet. But we start to see a huge impulsive candle out of it, right? Your brain starts screaming, get in now, right? Because you don't want to miss out. You pause, you ask yourself the 4 questions, you realise it's not in your plan, the trade's been avoided, potential loss has been avoided, and potential frustration has been avoided. Example 2. You take a loss. Let's say you took this, right? This can kind of tie in together, right? Let's say you've got in at the top here, so price has already ran, and it's already done something. So you entered here, and you've just been stopped out. Your stop loss was here, right? So you've just been stopped out, and we start making a small move back up, right? So let me get my position tool real quick. So let's say you had you entered up here, and your stop loss was at this low because you entered late. So you've just been stopped out, but we start to make a small move back up. And as we're making this move up, your brain says, hold on, there could be a re-entry here, we could make our money back. Pause, 10 seconds. you ask yourself those 4 questions. In those 4 questions, you know, you realise you ask yourself, because inside those 4 questions, if you remember, one of the questions you ask yourself is, you know, what emotion am I feeling right now? And the emotion you will feel is you are wanting to revenge. You are wanting to get that money back. You recognise this. You close your computer and you walk away. Last example. You get into, you're looking for a position. Everything aligns. You've asked yourself your 4 questions. Everything's perfect. Your risk is clear. It matches your plan. Your emotional state is spot on. You enter confidently, no hesitation. Boom, you hit take profit. So I've had examples of it, you know, going against you, and now we've had examples of it working. And in both sides, there's always positives from it. The final advice I'd give is that obviously using this 10-second thing isn't going to be like, oh, boom, you're instantly profitable, right? It's not going to work like that, but it will slowly stop 90% of like the painful and like the stupid emotional trades that have been like blowing your wins, or like blowing your accounts and stuff like that, right? So it's like this is like your edge. Like, this is going to be your edge from now on. Your edge in the market is having these 10 seconds to think, and that is going to be your edge, instead of like irrationally getting into trades. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That is the final bit of advice I'd give to everyone. Hope this has helped. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope it's like gonna improve your day-to-day trading and like your day-to-day psych. And yeah, I shall let you all go. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I shall see you all in the next one. Laters.